G'day and welcome back. Over the last few weeks, having released the Monetarily bike check video and the Monetarily video itself, I've had a whole lot of questions around the rear rack that I used for this trip. I'm talking about the Aeroe Spider Rack, a rack that, unlike most bikepacking saddlebags, is actually hard fixed to the bike frame itself and then houses a soft dry bag. Now you're probably wondering why a rack and bag system like this is better than a soft bag and whether there are any negatives to a system like this. I've now used this rack on 3 big trips, and so I thought I'd give you my honest opinion about how it works, what the pros and cons are, and why I selected this particular option in lieu of all the other saddlebag systems on the market today. First things first, I didn't buy this rack. My father did buy one and he was really impressed with how it works. So I reached out to the team at Aeroe and asked if they could send me one that I could try. Like I said, I've now done a couple of good trips and feel like I'm in a good position to give you guys an open and honest review of my experiences. Now the brand itself originates from New Zealand, and as part of compiling this vlog, I've done some research into when and how it all began. I was surprised to find that the team at Aeroe, founded by 2 brothers, Mike and Paddy Maguire, were the inventors of the freeload rack, now known as the tour rack, sold by OAKLEY. These guys are keen riders themselves, and the fact that OAKLEY now sell this product demonstrates to me that they know what they're doing. This and the fact that they've won numerous design and innovation awards for their Aeroe Spider product. On the Aeroe website, the brand's mission is to make bike adventure easier and more accessible to more people. This is pretty cool, and I'm all about supporting the mission. So how does the bag system differ from a conventional bikepacking saddlebag? As you can see here, I have an Apidura bag that I bought a few years back, and this is more of your typical style of rear saddlebag. The bag and the straps act as one unit. All of the fixings are soft fixings, and at the end of the day, you either unload all of your stuff out of the bag and take it into the tent or room with you, or you take the entire bag off, mud, dirt and all, and in she goes with you. Having used this type of bag for years, there's a number of downsides. The biggest downside for me is that the bag sways when you're out of the saddle, and I hate the way that this affects the handling of the bike. I also dislike the fact that you need to take the entire bag off at the end of the day and then reinstall it the following morning before setting off. When it's cold, you're tired, it's still dark, and your hands aren't working properly, this can be a real pain in the ass. And finally, despite the different brands' claims their products are waterproof, I'm yet to use any bag such as this that does in fact keep your kit dry. If it rains, the gear inside is going to get wet, period. Now in contrast, as you can see here, the Aeroe bag system is comprised of 2 different products. There's the rack itself, which remains fixed to the bike, and then there's the dry bag that comes on and off each day. Now before I jump into the pros and cons of this system and why I prefer it to a soft bag, I first want to talk you through the install of the rack. The rack itself is fixed to the bike using 4 small but very well designed fixing straps. 4 in total, 2 on each side. These straps fix in quite a clever way. There's 2 small metal holes on each side of the strap, which then hooks over another metal protrusion on the rack itself. A 5mm Allen key is then used to tighten down the straps. Why 2 lots of holes on the fixing straps? To accommodate different diameters of rear stays. Now it does take a little longer to fix the rack initially, but once it's fixed, You don't touch it, though a little more on that later on. Atop the rack, or as is shown on the website on either side of the rack, not that I've used this configuration yet, you install a cradle. Again, this is fixed in place using a 5mm Allen key. And on top of the cradle, you attach the dry bag itself. The dry bag's fixed into position using 2 very simple quick release straps that then allow you to remove and install the bag at the start and beginning of each day. So the question is, why is this system better than a typical soft bag? And here are the answers. Number 1, because the rack and bag are fixed in place, there's 0 sway on the bike when climbing. It's solid. Secondly, this system works with any bike, be it a gravel, a road bike, or a mountain bike with a dropper post. Because there's no fixing to the saddle, the system remains out of the way, allowing you to ride your bike fuss-free. With a soft bag, for example, you can't use it on a mountain bike with a dropper post, and also you'll find that depending on your pedaling style, it chafes on the back of your legs. Thirdly, you can carry whatever you want on the cradle itself. I've used the supplied Aeroe dry bag, which has an 8-litre carrying capacity, and I've also used an aftermarket 12-litre dry bag too. I recently did a long ride with my dad, and he used it on his e-mountain bike. He strapped the spare battery to the rack, which enabled him to cover the full 160km distance without having to stop and recharge. Number 4, like I mentioned before, at the end of the day, you just unclip the bag and take it into the tent or accommodation with you. It's simple and fuss-free, and because of the way the cradle's designed, it's free from mud and dirt. The next morning, you then pop it back in the cradle, do up the 2 straps, and away you go. Minimizing fuss on a bike, in my opinion, is key. Number 5, in wet conditions, the supplied bags keep your equipment 100% dry. There ain't zero water getting into this system once the bag is properly closed and sealed. And on the topic of water, wave goodbye to a wet ass. This system acts as a great rear fender, stopping all water that comes off the road and on your tyres from wetting your back and making you cold. As you can see, there's lots of pros, so what are the cons? Honestly, I don't really have any based on my experience. The system seems to work as is advertised. Some might say that the Aeroe system looks a little cumbersome, though this is personal, and for me, the functionality outweighs this 5-fold. Now what I do want to mention is that on my last trip, I installed the rack on my road bike and actually found that despite tightening the rack to the specified 4 Newton meters, the rack slipped down my frame, and before I'd realised that one of the fixing straps had rubbed against my rear rotor. This did cause a bit of damage to the strap, and I did become a little paranoid after this. Obviously, the last thing I want to be doing is riding around with a broken rack or a broken strap, which means my rack's not fixed, though I did get through the next 4 days of riding, having to check on it all throughout the day. That being said, I also used this rack last year for the 1,000km Monetarily trail, and had no slippage whatsoever, so I'm guessing that this is perhaps due to the thinner nature of the road bike rear stays, and the fact that the straps didn't have enough surface area to attach to. I reached out to the team at Aeroe and asked for their feedback on this, and here's what they had to say. We suspect the issue is with the road bike having very narrow seat stay tubing. A couple of options here. Firstly, cut a piece of an old bike tube and wrap the seat stay, then fix the rack and straps around the tube and seat stay. The tubing adds some bulk to your seat stays, plus the rubber provides extra grip. Secondly, there's a trick to shorten the 4 attachment straps, as shown here. Now for the weight weenies out there, how does this rack stack up to a standard bikepacking soft bag? Let's compare the 8-litre system I used with the 9-litre Expedition system from Apidura. Now the Apidura bag comes in at 325 grams, and the Aeroe system rack, cradle and bag comes in at 979 grams. That's 654 gram difference. Quite a lot to be fair. But if I had to choose between the 2 options, I'd still choose the Aeroe system based on the fact that it doesn't affect the handling of the bike when riding, and for all the other pros listed above. If it was a super hilly event I was undertaking and I had to go lightweight, I'd try to go without a rear bag at all, and instead run just a frame bag and a top tube bag. Price is also something to touch on. The same Apidura bag above can be purchased for €146, and the Aeroe rack, bag and cradle system retails for €135. That's an €11 difference, and I do genuinely feel like you're getting way more value from the Aeroe offering. The final thing to touch on here is how the Aeroe system compares to other racks like the Tailfin or the Tourlay. Now if I'm being honest, I haven't used these other systems, so it's hard to compare. Though based on aesthetics, I do like the fact that the Aeroe bag system is fixed using 2 attachment points as opposed to the Tailfin bag's 3. But again, it's hard for me to compare the real world use having not used these alternative systems. So there you go, that's my honest review of the Aeroe Spider rear rack based on my own real world personal experience. Like always, got questions, hit me down below. Would love to help point you guys in the right direction, and if you've got your own feedback, I'd love to hear it. See you soon.